for that. First of all, I have a question for everybody. Hands up how many people here enjoy a glass of wine? My God, a lot more than I thought. Secondly, are you anyway interested in knowing where your wine comes from? Anyway, so hence my topic. It's called Wine Tours of the World. 10 years ago, I was in London one weekend and I walked into the spook shop and I browsed through the geography section and stuff like that, and the next thing I came up against this lovely book called Wine Tours of the World. Flipped through it and I said to myself, I must buy this. Brought it back, showed it to my wife, and I said, there's something we should do sometime. It consisted of all the wines, of the French wines, the Spanish ones, the Argentinian ones, and so on, and it gave a general broad picture of the geography of wine, where it comes from, and how it's grown, and the popularity of it. Mary met it in our office, and the next thing we had a birthday party in around the same time, and the next thing anyway, the friends of ours in the office kindly gave us a wine tour present to go to Bordeaux for 4 days. We teamed up with people called Arblaster and Clark. If anyone's interested in doing something like this, I'll give them all the information afterwards. They're a wine company in London, and they organise tours all over the world. So our first trip was to Bordeaux, and anyone that knows Bordeaux, apart from the wine end of it, which is most famous for its beautiful city. It's situated on the Garonne River, and each area, there's Medoc, Saint-Emilion. I'm sure if you look up your bottles of wine from the Bordeaux region, you'll see each region. La Grave, as I said before, Medoc, Haut-Brion is one of the famous wine people in it, and then you have all the other regions around that. There are 10,000 wine growers in the Bordeaux region, believe it or not, and everyone probably knows of Saint-Emilion itself because it's one of the most famous, kind of easy enough name to remember as well. So when we spent the 4 lovely days there, we met with like-minded people, and even on that trip, the English people are great travellers. I always feel that they've been all over the world because of their history. But there was 2 or 3 guys on that wine trip, actually, they were wine buyers for supermarkets. So the object of going with some people like Arblaster and Clark, now I'm not in the business of promoting them, but they will allow you, or they will get you into chateaus that you wouldn't normally be allowed into, because of the fact that it's such a large group of people, and they're interested in promoting their wines, obviously, and particularly with people like the English that may have 1 or 2 maybe supermarket people with them that want to buy the wines. In Bordeaux itself as well, actually, we were actually invited into about 3 of the chateaus after walking the vineyards, and we were actually given a lunch, and after it was about 5 different wines in each chateau, for example, and they obviously wheeled out the best ones for us. Now the wine thing per se is that obviously every year is different because of the weather and stuff like that, but there are certain parts of a vineyard where it can actually produce a spectacular wine, more so than say one end of the chateau. The soil can be totally different, where the vine may go down a lot deeper than say in the lower section, maybe high up, or the higher it is up, and the more sunlight it gets, it helps the quality of the wine. So not having been in Bordeaux, we got a taste for the business, so we ended up going to Italy, and there we flew to Verona, and we went to the famous Masi vineyards. Now the Masi vineyards are outside Verona, and it's undoubtedly one of the most important wines. It's called Valpolicella. And among those is the past 3 decades contributed the most international success of Verona wines. The Amarone, for example, in particular, it produces 12 million bottles a year. This family that are owned by the Boschiani people. So that was a very fast, great. Not only did we buy them, we actually bought a memory of the tour as well, and the travel, and anyone that knows Italy knows it's a beautiful country. So when we were finished in the Verona area, then we took a bus across over to Piedmont, Turin, and over there you have the Barolo and the Barbesco wines. They are obviously very famous, and they were actually brought the Italian, or the French actually introduced wine into Italy back in the 18th century. And as a result of that then, they are very successful at their job too. So the Barolas and the Barbascos, as I said before, associated with that region of Italy. And this famous Aldo, my Italian is not good, Contanero once said, he said, make this wine undrinkable when you put it into the bottle. In other words, that when you do bottle your wine after being in the barns for 2 or 3 years, whatever the case may be, you leave it there for at least a couple of years before you actually drink it, because most people maybe like to drink wine be too fresh, whatever the case may be. But having said that, that was one of the quotes from this famous guy who introduced wine into that area. And of course, needless to say, I have a great love of being in my work, beef. So in that area of Barola and Albenbra, the 2 main towns, they have famous Piemontese cattle over there, and they are light bone cattle, and they are very, very nice, with a nice piece of beef, needless to say. So anyway, looking at the clock here, the final part of our leg of our journey was we got to South America, and on that one we flew to Argentina, stayed a couple of days there, and we went to Montevideo and flew over the Andes Mountains in a plane. And I was thinking of the boys that had the plane crash alive. I said, I hope we're not going to end up the same way. It was a very true story. I'm sure people have seen the film, would bring you to your senses. But anyway, on the plane going over, this English fella heard Mary and I chatting, and the next thing he says, I wanted an Irish wife. And I'm really going to say to him, what did you do with her? But he obviously, they got divorced. So having the chat with him on the plane over, he actually studied in Trinity College. And the next thing, we were waiting for the bags to come off the plane, or off the belt, and the next thing, there were dogs running around sniffing the bags, and I said, my God, this must be a drug problem. So to make a long story short anyway, there were dogs smelling, looking for fruit, and this old lady had 3 lemons in her bag, and she was not allowed to import lemons, but she said she wanted them for gin and tonics because she thought there were lemons in gin, and the whole place full of them. They're one of the first, gin by the way is one of the famous first producers of fruit in the world, so hence the huge precaution with regard to disease and stuff like that. But having said that then, Argentina, Chile itself was beautiful. I mean, vineyards there were, they all came over from Europe, of course, Italians and Germans after the war in particular. Came over the Andes on a bus and back into a place called Mendoza in Italy, or in Italy, in Argentina, and we spent a few days there and back over then back to Buenos Aires. So have to say, fantastic way of seeing the world with like-minded people who are interested in wine, and it's great education we feel in itself. Obviously with good wine you get good food, so that's my story and I'm sticking to it. But as I said before, and you can see as a result of the wine tours as well maybe. But anyway, we won't go there. If anyone wants any further information or any help on some paperwork here, to be glad to share it with you. So that's my story, and thank you for listening to me.